I've seen a lot of videos talking about tier list, S tier combos, best weapon synergies, and Chinese meta and other promises. The reality is that most of those builds are either depending on high skill cap or specific inner ways tier level. Now, if you're just a casual gamer or let's say a semi hardcore player, you enjoy playing at your own pace but you still want to perform and be top DPS, well, I have the perfect build for you, and more than the build, it's actually a lot of good practices to apply to maximize the damages. As an example, today I will use my build that I'm using since the beginning of the game, Umbrella plus Twin Blades. But you can replace the Twin Blades with any kind of selfish weapons. So a selfish weapon is something that wants to be on field to apply damages. So you can also go for Strategic Sword, which is amazing in this build as well. And you can replace the Umbrella with any kind of weapon that can buff the damage of your selfish weapon, but I don't know if there is a better option than the Umbrella at this point. Also, in this video, we will compare my build to other meta build because I read a lot about Bamboo Cut build being top tier DPS using Rope Dart and Twin Blades, and it is true. Although maximizing your DPS with this build is also way more complicated. It requires you perfect rotation and a great knowledge of the 4 buffs you can apply to yourself. And with my easy build, you don't need to worry about buff for now. It's more focusing on positioning and adaptation. So to put things in perspective, it is important to understand what is a DPS rotation or cycle. In most MMOs or RPG games, you will have a perfect combination of your kit, so spells, attacks, and everything, to maximize your DPS. We call that a rotation, and the idea is to get as close as possible of your perfect rotation. Cooldowns are usually the biggest factor in the decision of a rotation, so the idea is to finish the cycle of DPS and start again from the first spell you started with, and everything. Now, in order to maximize your rotation, you need to understand first how to cancel the last attack of your combo with Dual Blades. If you look at what happened if you spam light attacks, you will notice this long animation where your character is finishing his combo. It takes forever, but you can cancel it with a skill. You can use the dash skill or the Calamity's Grid to cancel. Calamity's Grid is the spinning attack that you can also do a slash with. The dash is faster, so you can go back at smashing light attack faster if your build is focused on light attack. This is the way. And the Calamity's Grid deals more damage, but that depends on your build. In my build, I usually go for both depending on Flame Lash, which is another thing that we're gonna see a little bit later in this guide. But for now, let's start with the rotation. This build has a very clear and easy rotation to follow. I'm about to give you the perfect version of it, but it's obviously hard to do it every time, especially during fights, so it's okay if you're not perfectly doing the rotation, just try to be as close as possible. Start with the Umbrella because 99% of the time you will have distance with your enemy at the beginning of the fight, which will allow you to send your stun, so it's L2 plus square on controller, and follow with the spam projectile. I know it is complicated for controller user with the Umbrella aim, but you can adjust with the right stick the Umbrella in the good direction, and then you use the left stick to move around and correct the aim if needed. Most bosses are quite static in the end, so you should be fine. Once you're up in the air firing at the enemy, you need to be focused on your skills. As soon as you see your L2 plus triangle is available, you leave the projectiles mode and you start the automatic turret Umbrella stance. You could continue with the projectiles, but you're losing a little bit of DPS, and we're here today to maximize. Now that your Umbrella is firing automatically, you can start using Twin Blades for the second part of phase 1. Get close to the enemy and start swinging blades. You can get close to the enemy by using L2 plus square if you're too far, and once you're close to him, you'll have to maximize your blade damage by cancelling your light attacks, as we saw just before, by using a skill. I recommend L2 plus triangle, which is Calamity's Grid, which deals a lot of damage if you activate it twice due to the slash attack. On top of that, it reduces martial arts cooldown. You shouldn't have enough to trigger Flame Lash, which is your triangle attack, so we won't use it on the first phase. So, to summarize this phase 1.1, dash in if needed, light attack plus cancel animation with L2 plus triangle, repeat. That's all you have to do. If you see that Flame Lash is available, you have two choices. You can use it now, or you can use it in phase 2 when we're gonna do the whole rotation again. It depends on the boss. Is the boss close to you? Is the boss exhausted? Yes, use Flame Lash, destroy him. If the boss is running around, jumping and everything, I would wait for phase 2 and go back to the Umbrella. Now we're switching back to Umbrella. This is phase 2. It's the same as phase 1 for the Umbrella, nothing changes. You start with the stun, you go projectiles mode. As soon as you get the skill available, you leave the projectiles mode and you put your Umbrella turret mode. And then we can start phase 2 with dual blades. This time Flame Lash should be up and you can dash into the boss, Flame Lash and then spam light attack. You can also send your double Calamity's Grid as we saw before in phase 1.1, but the choice here is made by the inner ways you're running with. Personally, I am using Echoes of Oblivion, which boost my light attack. I also have a gear set that boosted my light attack, so I have all interest spamming Flame Lash plus light attacks. Once everything is in cooldown on your twin blades, you can go back to Umbrella and then rinse and repeat, and that's the rotation, guys. So this is more or less what you want to do with every fight with this build. Again, this is not an S tier build, it's more like an A tier build directed to beginner to advanced player that wants to be good at the game and be top DPS. I would say it's easy to play and master because it also teaches you positioning and a good rotation practices. I'm constantly number one in DPS with this build during Sword Trial or Heroes Realm, and it's mostly because of the versatility of this build. If the boss runs away, I can cut through my rotation and switch directly to Umbrella to keep the DPS coming. Although when someone out DPS me, they're using some of the S tier build like Bamboo Cut, but they master it. It's like they know when to use the buff, when do they have a little window to put 1, 2, maybe sometimes 3 buff together, and keep doing the DPS while thinking on when can I apply my buff on me. So it's more strategic. It requires you to know the boss patterns a little bit more and to read the fight better. It is not something that I would advise at the beginning. You also need a tier 3 Vendetta to make it work properly, the Bamboo Cut build. So yeah, I think it's something that is really good in the coming months, coming weeks, maybe. Right now, I myself, for example, don't have enough resources to play that build. I tried it. And the fact that I don't have Vendetta tier 3 is a big, big difference. All right, now let's dive into something that I master a little bit more. If you don't really know about it, I'm more someone that is really good at deck building, min-maxing statistic, and stuff like that, more than the actual gameplay of my character. So now we're going to talk about the gear, the inner ways needed to maximize damage. This is also the moment where we're going to see the limitation of this build because we are using two different martial arts. And even if there is a few statistics that synergize together, you will see that if you had, for example, choose Bamboo Cut, everything scaled together. So a buff that you apply to weapons 1 applies to weapons 2. Here it's a bit more tricky. Let's dive into it. Starting with inner ways, I recommend Morale and Bitter Season. Both are great to start with, and both can be bought with Echo Jade. I recommend you to do so because these two passive are generic and can be used everywhere. Morale Shunt is a sort of small permanent attack buff triggered while attacking, and Bitter Seasons will proc poisons with a certain percentage and shred physical defense. For the two last inner ways that I'm using, I go with Echoes of Oblivion, which is really strong, and Seasonal Edge. Little disclaimer about Seasonal Edge. Today on Reddit, I got downvoted to hell because I said that Seasonal Edge was good. And yeah, everyone was against me, so I started to do some research, check the numbers, and yeah, well, it's not the best passive out there, but I got pretty lucky slash unlucky with it because I got like 30 or 40 notes of it. So I'm almost tier 3 with them. And I don't know, I feel like I'm at this point, I should just keep going with it. It gives a buff every time you switch weapon. The buff is random and the numbers that it gives is not like crazy, crazy. But if you manage to level it up to tier 3, which I'm close to, you get this 20% chance to apply 2 more buff. And that is quite nice. But again, it's not the best. I wouldn't recommend it. I'm using it because I got a lot of them. That's mostly the reason. If you want my advice, I would recommend you to build breaking points that increase your DPS when the target is exhausted by giving more crit damage and physical penetration. I think this is a good alternative to Seasonal Edge. It's actually better for, I'm almost sure about it now. I just didn't got many breaking points notes, so I'm stuck there. And as mentioned before, my last passive is Echoes of Oblivion because I'm planning on building a Bamboo Cut build at some point. So I'm preparing by using this one. It buffs my light attack. So if I do light attack without Flame Lash, I apply a debuff to the enemy. If I do light attack with Flame Lash, I apply another debuff, which means that in both cases, my light attacks do most damage, and that's what I want with it. Now that we saw which inner ways are interesting with this build, let's dive in gears. Before we do anything with the gear, I want you to understand which substats we should run with this one. It will obviously depends a little bit on what you get from the dungeons and the energy spending. But if you first go to that menu, you will notice which bonus scaling your weapon is running. So we can see here that Twin Blades and Umbrella gets a bonus stat by raising minimum physical attack. So every time you will add minimum physical attack to your character through the gear or the substats or anything, you will get a little bit of a bonus from the umbrella and from the twin blades. Now I'm going to give you my priority list when it comes to the substats, although since we are still changing build often due to the level cap, that increase every week, every 2 weeks, I won't give you a perfect tier list of each substats one by one, but instead a more simplified version. The best substats to get with this build are crit rate, precision rate, minimum physical attack, agility, max physical attack, and power. Basically, everything that can raise your damages. Number 2 on the list, substats that are okay to get. I put Bamboo Cut attack, Silkbind Jade attack, max HP and defense, momentum, body. These statistics are useful, although they are not the one that you should build in priority. And the last tier is the tier number 3, the one that are pretty much useless on your character. You can think of everything related to the wrong martial arts, for example. This you want to avoid as much as possible. For the gear set, I went with Swallow Call and Calm Waters that are recommended for Bamboo Cut build. It's an okay synergy, but this is one of the limits of this hybrid build. Your umbrella doesn't benefit from Swallow Call. So I'd say with this build, you should be more focused on your substats than on your gear set. So yeah, of course, having a gear set complete is a bonus, but only if the gear PCs have relevant substats. In Arena, I can have okay result with that build, but I feel like my internet connection and the actual Arena desync is stronger than any build optimization at the moment. On top of that, I'm just not very skilled as a player. I usually spend more time reading and understanding a game than actually mastering it skill-wise. So when a PvP fight starts, I have an objective, and it's to set up the umbrella as soon as possible. If my stun reaches, I'd say my chances of winning are close to 80%. Although the stun is super easy to dodge. So it's not easy to get your turret mode activated, but if you manage to get it on, plus you stun lock the opponent with dual blades combo, it's usually a win. If the opponent start getting distance to temporize or anything else, you can still snipe him with the umbrella and maintain the aggression. So this is how you want to play that build. You first get very aggressive. If you miss your first umbrella stun and your turret mode, it's way more complicated of a fight. I really don't have a comeback solution at the moment. I usually try to stun the guy a little bit with the dual blades or try to get some distance. But if he got the advantage, he will like chase you to death until he kills you. Basically, this build in a winning scenario just gets stronger and stronger due to versatility. You have an answer for every attack of your opponent. Unfortunately, if the opposite happens and you cannot set up yourself early with the umbrella turret, then it's way harder to get back to the fight. Overall, I'm pretty sure this build is really perfect for most players that don't want to dive too much into complicated build at the moment and still be top DPS in the game. As you have seen through the video, most of the time when I'm playing with randoms, I am number 1 in DPS, but it's just because I'm always able to deal damage with that build. Enemies too far, I go umbrella. Enemies close, I go dual blades. And then you add on top of that the rotation that we saw, and you try to make it fit with the boss movement. It is, in my opinion, a great way to start understanding the mechanic of the game, and why not after dive into something a bit more complicated. Now you have Silkbind, Jade, and Bamboo Cut leveled up. You can switch a little bit around and try different combo with those two. If you have any suggestion to improve this combo by using different weapons, are you maybe using another inner ways or a different gear set? I am really excited to hear about it. Please share it in the comment. We also started the guild recently. The guild is called Corporate. You can join it anytime, it's open. See you in game, guys. Have a great day. Bye bye.